What's going on, guys? So last couple weeks I've been doing like videos that are a little bit different. Last week I did a I think last week might have been the top 30 fan bases. That might have been 2 weeks ago. But anyway, I wanted to do something that was like shying away from, like I said, the videos that I normally do. So I wanted to do my stance on college football players getting paid. So right now they just moved to this thing called like cost of attendance or something for athletes, and a lot of them are getting paid like $4,000 or $5,000 a year in monthly checks, just determined by the school of how much it costs them outside of school to be there. So like things like meals, gas, I guess anything else they want to do, like. I don't know. I think it's a weird system. I don't like it. It's not good at all, I don't think. I think it's just a very, very short-term solution. Like, I'm talking like this thing in 2-3 years I think will be thrown out the window. I think it really should be. I've got my own stance. I guess you could kind of say it meets in the middle between paying and not paying college athletes. I'm not one of those that says you should give them all one huge salary, but I'm also not one of those that thinks that scholarship's enough. I think for sports like, now you guys might think that this is like a little uneven, but let's be real here. Sports like, I go to Oklahoma State, so I'll use an example here. Sports like women's soccer, tennis, track, they do great, sure. They're good teams. Equestrian too. They do bring home a ton of national championships, which is great. Like, that helps out the school a lot. It helps them out. I mean, obviously those guys love what they do, which is awesome. They don't have that much attendance though. They don't bring in that much money for the school. Just like I said, ticket sales wise, ad revenue, and then just obviously like merchandise, gear, things like that. They don't bring in money for the school. Like, no one goes into a shop and some people do obviously, but not a large amount of people will go directly for a shirt that says Cowboy Equestrian over Cowboy Football. Look around campus, yeah, you'll see the occasional equestrian shirt, but very rarely outside of someone that doesn't have anything to do with the team, like whether it's like a best friend that plays, or best friend that, I don't really know what you call it, like a best friend that is on the team, or a family member, or you're actually on the team. So basically what I'm saying is I think that college football should move to, not just college football, every college sport in general, should move towards a policy where you get paid kind of like the Olympics. So if you guys watch, there's a very good documentary on Netflix about college athletes getting paid. It's one of the most interesting ones I've watched. It covers really in depth to the UNC scandal, if you guys have seen that recently, with the paper classes, UNC getting in huge trouble for them, and them really being set as an example by the NCAA. The investigation really dragged out as long as the one for Miami did with Nevin Shapiro. It's just they haven't really been levied with any real restrictions yet, and the NCAA has been saying they're going to do it for the last 2-3 years. Now, I think that while some universities sure operate very far outside the rules, if you guys saw a Sports Illustrated piece done on Oklahoma State about 2 years ago, obviously Oklahoma State doesn't operate very straight. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Boone Pickens. A lot of people think that he just pays people off. Obviously he's got a lot of money, he's donated a lot of money, so might have, I don't know. At other schools like Alabama, Auburn, obviously there's something going on behind the scenes. Any school that's got big recruiting has something going on. I mean, it's not the extent of like a show like Blue Mountain State, obviously. I mean, I guess some schools might be, I'm not really sure. But I'll say 99% of the schools aren't. But at the same time, they're not clean. I mean, there's players out there that are clean, sure, that do everything that a normal student should do. Go to practice, go get your schoolwork done, and then, hit the gym for the rest of the time. But let's be honest here, there's very few that do that. So, like I said, my take on it is I believe that college athletes should be, I guess I wouldn't really say paid, but endowed like people do in the Olympics. So when you're in the Olympics, you don't get straight up paid, but you are free to go out, get your own agent, get your own sponsorships, get your own endorsements, basically all that. I think if a college athlete wants to sign his name for money, he should be allowed to do that. I mean, I go out there, I sign my name. It's not worth anything. Like, obviously, I don't play any big sports, but when Todd Gurley last year went out, signed 40 mini helmets for like $500, he got suspended for 4 or 5 games, maybe in like, it seemed like half the season. Then he just pretty much quit. Got injured too, yeah. But just his entire senior or what was it, senior or junior? I can't remember. Anyway, his entire 2014 season was lost because he wanted to sign his name on 40 helmets for a profit. If you have made yourself into a big enough icon where you can sign your name for money, then you should be allowed to do that. If you have made yourself big enough to where you can go out and get sponsorships and endorsements and make millions of dollars that you should be entitled to, like you're the reason why that school is making money, then you should be allowed to do that. Like, obviously there's big athletes, and you will find the occasional like huge superstar athlete in off sports besides football and basketball. I bet you when she was in high school, Brittney Griner could have brought in a ton of money from endorsements. I bet when it's hard to think of examples, but women's soccer, there's got to be some examples of girls while they were in college bringing in backup forward. I can't put my name on her, or I can't put my finger on her name right now. Anyway, sorry. Not entirely familiar with the U.S. women's national team, but there are 2-3 girls on there that could have easily brought in a ton of money for endorsements. And again, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that every single athlete outside of basketball and football can't make any money for themselves. What I'm saying is, if they can go to school and, if they're good enough to get an education, when you're playing women's soccer growing up that, you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it for the love of the sport. Well, I hope you're doing any sport for the love of it. I hope you're not doing it for the money, and if you are, then the only way you're doing that is if you're really gifted athletically. Anyway, for them getting to play at a big D1 college while getting to go to class for free, having everything paid for, books, food, everything like that on campus, that's great. Like I said, it's sad, but it's true. I'm a huge lacrosse fan. I play lacrosse. I really wish that the MLL was bigger, but if I went to the MLL, then I wouldn't be making a whole lot of money. That's just one example. Women's soccer players, if they're great, they can go play in, I think it's the WMLS. I'm not entirely sure what the professional league is called. They've got a professional league that is growing just because of the, growing reputation of the U.S. women's national team. But it's not enough to make, anywhere near of a living compared to what you would in one of the major 4 sports. Even in the MLS, you can make a decent living depending on who you are. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you're big enough to go get sponsorships and endorsements on your own, you should be allowed to do that. I don't think the university should go out of their way to pay every single athlete. If the university wants to go ahead and slap its logo and a random number on a jersey, go ahead. But if you're going to go ahead and put like Johnny Manziel's number on a jersey, if you're Texas A&M and even when you search the website, it says Johnny Manziel jersey. If you're not going to give him money for that, then don't put his number on there. Put a random number on there. Obviously, if it's a certain athlete, then, but when you make it that obvious, you got to give him the money for it. Like, that's just simple. At this point, at that point, it's pretty much bad way to put it, but it is really slave labor. Johnny Manziel made so much money for that Texas A&M athletic program. He didn't get a dime of it. Obviously, when he came out of college, he got he got a decent amount. But when you're playing a sport like football, there's really no alternative route to going besides going to college. College football is the NFL's minor league. Now, while for the NBA you can go to the D League, the college basketball is the best option. College basketball has a ton more wrong with the way it feeds the NBA, in my opinion, but that's another video. Baseball, different situation. I don't know. College baseball is weird. It gets really popular in the spring for the College World Series, but the fact that it pretty much plays during the entire MLB season, it just gets completely overshadowed by every other big sport in college. Half the college baseball season is overshadowed by college basketball, and then college basketball ends, and people start paying more attention to it around the College World Series. But for most of the season, it's overshadowed by something. It has a lot of potential, and it is a growing sport. just marketing wise, and revenue wise. People are starting to figure out how to capitalize on it, but it's not near as big as basketball and football. Again, I do believe there are plenty of athletes in college baseball that could go out and get paid right now. If Bryce Harper went to college, definitely would have been huge. Carlos Rodon, while he was still in college, could have made a killing at NC State. I mean, people knew who he was before he got drafted. But in high school, there are a lot of college players that like to get their education. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to go get your education. I think you should still be on full scholarship. I think that, the school should be able to give you that stuff for free because, you are doing the school a service by playing for them and then getting their name out. But I don't think that the school should have to go out of their way to pay you to play. I think that, like I said, if your name is big enough to the point where you can go out and get money for it, you shouldn't be restricted by that. Now, I know that there's ways that, if you open the market up that much to college athletes, then you start going to the table to pay them to, agent situations get all messed up. Yeah, I get that. But you look at it now and it can't get much worse. Obviously there's college players getting paid. There's college players that do have agents, and it just doesn't really get caught. And the NCAA is it just seems like one of the most hypocritical organizations in all of sports. The NCAA basically says they're a nonprofit corporation, or nonprofit, I don't really know what they're entitled as. I don't think they're corporations, they're a nonprofit organization, but they bring in billions of dollars in revenue for TV deals every year. Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, is a millionaire. Like, he wasn't a millionaire before he took over, he's a millionaire now. Do the math. Obviously, if you guys are familiar with the NCAA, all this stuff that's been going on I'm assuming this has been going on for a while now, but really blown up the last, I'd say, 5-10 years, then, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know, you're just kind of a casual, even casual fans really know what I'm talking about, but, you just watch college sports a little bit, then, you know what college sports are. You know that you like watching it because they don't get paid, watching it for the love of the game. But I don't know. I don't think that it's clean. I don't think this is gonna work. I really don't think this cost of attendance thing is the way to go. Like I said, still sports that aren't bringing in any. There's a lot of sports for schools that are losing money. The WNBA hasn't made a cent in profit since it came into existence. It's anchored by the NBA. Now, I get it, WNBA is great. Stands for a lot with women's athletics. I think it is the biggest professional women's sport in the country, which is great. And they're really, they've really been able to funnel TV deals and, women's college basketball players effectively into a professional league, which is a big step. But still, if you're looking at this on the business side of things, they still have not made a cent since they came into existence. They are completely anchored by the NBA. They're kept afloat by the NBA, and all the money, the NBA just delves millions, if not billions of dollars. I wouldn't say billions, but millions of dollars into keeping the WNBA afloat every year. Obviously, they're not doing it for a marketing stint. They just want to have basketball spread across the world. That's a good thing to do. Getting back to my point here. A lot of men's sports too. Men's soccer does not, it's just soccer in general, it does not generate any revenue for most schools. College baseball probably does generate quite a bit of revenue, especially for the bigger athletic schools. Now here, there's a lot of smaller sports that do generate revenue that you really think that shouldn't generate a whole lot of revenue. One is wrestling. I think that's the biggest example here. Wrestling has sold out the basketball arena, I think, a couple times in the last couple years, which is unbelievable to me. Growing up where I did, wrestling wasn't huge. And then coming here, wrestling is enormous. Obviously, it's the biggest wrestling school in the country. But the fact that they can still sell out a stadium for wrestling, to me, especially at a college sport, where I think that's where wrestling is at its purest. A lot of those guys go to the WWE, and nothing really real happens there. So I think that it is really cool to watch. And like I said, the ticket sales, they have a lot of merchandise, there's a lot of big names. Obviously they can't really, you don't have a jersey or anything for wrestling, so can't really slap the names on anything, but it generates a lot of revenue for the school. And I know it's not, obviously, facilities, but it really doesn't cost a whole lot to keep up. Like, they share stadiums, they share practice facilities, gyms, all that. It's not hard to keep up. And obviously those guys should be getting paid too, but with the right things, not just out of, school, not out of athletic department's pockets. Like, I think that, sorry guys, I'm really trying to digress here back to the point. But like I said, if you're trying to put all what I'm saying into one, I think that universities should not be paying anyone out of pocket. I don't think that there should be one specific price that you pay every single athlete. All sports generate different types of revenue for different schools. If we're just looking at this on the purely business side of things, then 95% of the time with a D1 school, basketball and football are going to generate the most money, which means that's where the most money-making athletes are going to be. That's where the highest profile athletes are going to be. And, they come into school knowing full well that they are pretty much subsiding. They sign that scholarship. They know that they won't be making any money. I understand that. But they really don't have any other options, which means you kind of making a monopoly out of it, which, again, is illegal. If you guys read any articles about the inner workings of the NCAA, they basically are an illegal run corporation in multiple ways. They're not technically classified as a corporation, like I said. They're a nonprofit, which is unbelievable to me. And I think everything that the NCAA stands for is wrong. It's false. They're just a hypocritical, non-transparent organization. That's my personal take on the NCAA, though. I think that it either needs to go through radical changes, or it just needs to be getting rid of altogether. To me, the NCAA is second behind FIFA as the most non-transparent, obviously corruptible, and just hypocritical organization in the world for a major organization overlooking any type of sports. Now, like I said, a player like, I'm going to go through a few big recent examples. Todd Gurley, Johnny Manziel. I know Jadeveon Clowney almost got in trouble for it at South Carolina. Like I said, just a few big guys in the last 2 or 3 years that have either gotten in trouble or almost gotten in trouble when they made their school millions on top of millions of dollars. They should be allowed to go out and sign their name for a certain amount of money if they want to. Those guys can lose their scholarship from what I've seen, they can lose their scholarship in an instant they get injured. Todd Gurley almost did. It derails their career, and the school just took full advantage of them and left them with nothing. Now, if you want to let them make money on what they can, at the end, if you want, obviously, I think keeping them on scholarship through injury is a different situation. I think they should let that happen. That, like I said, a different video. But, guy gets injured and he's not making money anymore. He knows that, that shit happens. Like, it's life. It happens. Now, if he's being taken advantage of for, like I said, basically slave labor when he's not getting paid at all, then there's a problem. You just basically use him for all he's worth and then just discarded him when you're done. Now, like I said, that's not just a problem with the NCAA. That's a problem with school ADs, athletic departments, athletic whatever. Yeah, I think it's a widespread problem. I think there's a pretty simple fix. Obviously, the inner workings of how you would make that happen will be a little bit more difficult. It'd be a live and learn process. It'd be tough at first, but I think it's a really good long-term solution. Like I said, good documentary on Netflix. All you have to search is college athletes getting paid. I believe that Jay Billis has one of the best stances on it I've ever heard. Mine is very similar, and I think that it meets in the middle. Like I said, no one has a problem with Olympic athletes getting paid for endorsements. Who would pay the athletes if it wasn't for endorsement sponsorships? These TV deals are TV deals are another thing that would be hard to do, but that would have to go into revenue sharing, which is a completely different side of things. And I think that could be installed somehow, but I think that those should be left alone to the schools. If your school's big enough to make money off the TV deal, then that should be fine. Each league has its own thing. There's no consistent revenue sharing across the board in any of the 4 major sports. In the NFL, you get a little bit of the cut of the contract when, from the TV deals. But the NFL is a whole widespread thing. The Dallas Cowboys get the same amount of revenue sharing for TV deals that I think the Lions do, or one of the smaller market teams. So it's really hard to compare it for hockey. But I'm thinking, some of the leagues like the Bundesliga for soccer, that's a good example. If you're on Bayern Munich, you're getting paid so much more from the TV deal. They don't really have a certain cut in the Bundesliga for, you get this much for this certain TV deal. But you know what, roughly what the numbers are, and then you come up roughly with your market worth, and then obviously they pay you that. Now, sports, when you're talking about player contracts, just what players are worth, obviously it is a market. Their stocks go up and down. College, it kind of be the same way, I think you have endorsements already. I think that's just another way. I think that even stretches outside the college. When you've got, like, Johnny Manziel, when he was in college, Texas A&M, still sponsored by Adidas. They were sponsored by Adidas. Him wearing Adidas stuff, which I don't think he does anymore. He signed a huge contract with Nike as soon as he got out of college. I mean, he just gave free sponsoring to Adidas. Home run by Adidas, obviously, but he's wearing stuff that he might not even want to wear. Like, again, obviously, when you go to that college, you're full aware of what you're doing. But deals can change while you're in college. Trying to think. Tennessee just went through a big change. So guys like Josh Dobbs, Jalen Hurd, Todd Kelly, guys who are going to get drafted from Tennessee. Notre Dame, another one that went through a big change. But, they had no control over that. They didn't know that was going to happen. Tennessee had been sponsored by Adidas for quite a while before then. And, they might have liked Adidas better than Nike. Obviously they might like Nike. It just depends on the guy. But if they want to go out and wear their own thing, obviously I think the school can have guidelines. But if they want to go out and wear their own cleats, just let them. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's all my rant for the day. Like I said, it's a big topic for me. I think that there's a good solution to put in place, and the fact that it hasn't been done yet just kind of makes me even more enthusiastic about the topic. So, like I said, I always love to hear you guys' comments about these topics. This one especially, I love hearing people's views on athletes getting paid. I like hearing solutions. And I think it should be an ongoing debate that happens. Obviously, it happens until something gets changed. If you think everything should stay put, then comment that. Like I said, I think it's a big problem. I think it's a problem that's only going to grow, especially with this current solution. And I do really like my idea to fix it. I think it could be a very legitimate long-term solution. It won't be good in the immediate short term, just because of the amount of loopholes that there would be. But I think it's something that can be easily fixed, easily tightened up in the coming years if they do end up pulling something like this. So yeah, like I said, love to hear your comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.